Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous people in the room say the least? They don't shout, they don't boast, they don't even flinch, they just watch. And in that silence, they control everything. Why is that? What makes silence so powerful, so unsettling, so villainous? Today, we're diving into the psychology of villains, not the cartoonish bad guys twirling mustaches, but the real ones. The ones who move like shadows, who bend the world to their will without ever raising their voice. We're talking about the art of silence and manipulation, the strategies of two of history's greatest minds, Sun Tzu, the master of war, and Machiavelli, the architect of power. This isn't just about understanding villains, it's about understanding power and how you can wield it or protect yourself from those who do. Press play and let's awaken the strategist within you. Think about the last time someone got under your skin. Maybe it was a coworker who always seems to know exactly what to say to make you doubt yourself. Or a friend who, with a single glance, makes you feel like you've already lost an argument you haven't even started. What do they have in common? Waste words. They don't rush to fill the silence. They let you do that. And in that moment, they've already won. Villains, whether in movies, books, or real life, aren't loud. They're deliberate. They know that words are weapons, but silence is a fortress. It's a trap. It's a mirror that forces you to reveal your weaknesses. And the greatest villains, the ones who haunt us, they've mastered this. They've read the playbook of Sun Tzu, who said, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." Or Machiavelli, who wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." These aren't just quotes. They're blueprints for manipulation, for control, for bending reality itself. You might be thinking, I'm not a villain, why should I care? Because understanding the psychology of villains isn't about becoming one. It's about recognizing their tactics so you can defend yourself. It's about learning to wield silence as a shield, not just a sword. In a world where everyone's screaming to be heard, the one who stays quiet, who listens, who waits, that's the one with the real power. And if you've ever felt manipulated, outmaneuvered, or just small in someone's presence, this is your chance to flip the script. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's silence made you nervous? Where you felt compelled to talk, to explain, to justify yourself, only to realize later you gave away too much? Drop a comment below and tell me about it. What was it about that moment that threw you off? Let's unpack this together. We're going to break down the psychology of silence and manipulation, drawing from Sun Tzu's timeless strategies and Machiavelli's ruthless pragmatism. You'll learn why villains use silence as their greatest weapon, how they manipulate without saying a word, and most importantly, how you can use these same principles to protect yourself, gain clarity, and move through the world with unshakable confidence. This isn't about becoming a villain. It's about becoming dangerous in your own way, dangerous to those who underestimate you. If this is already hitting you, if you're feeling that spark of curiosity about the power of silence, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of this journey. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, maybe that friend who's always getting played in negotiations, or that coworker who talks too much under pressure. Let's spread this knowledge and build a community of strategists. Ready? Let's dive deeper. Let's start with a story. Imagine you're in a high-stakes meeting. The room is tense. Everyone's throwing out ideas, arguing, trying to prove they belong. But there's one person, let's call them Alex, who just sits there, arms crossed, eyes sharp, not a word. The louder the room gets, the more you notice Alex's silence. It's not passive, it's heavy. It demands attention. And when they finally speak, maybe just a single sentence, everyone stops. They listen. Why? Because Alex's silence wasn't empty. It was loaded with intent. This is the psychology of villains in action. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of control. Tzu understood this. In The Art of War, he wrote, "The leader who does not act until the enemy is already committed to action will always win." Translation? Let your opponent move first. Let them reveal their hand. Let them exhaust themselves. Silence is how you do that. It's how you gather information, how you unsettle, how you win without fighting. Machiavelli took it further. In The Prince, he advised, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But how do you inspire fear? Not by yelling, not by posturing, by being unpredictable, by withholding, by letting others fill the void with their own fears, assumptions, and insecurities. Villains don't need to threaten with words. Their silence is the threat. Let's ground this in psychology. Research on nonverbal communication shows that silence is one of the most powerful tools in human interaction. A 2017 study from the University of Groningen found that pauses in conversation increase perceived authority. When someone stays silent, others instinctively assume they're confident, in control, or hiding something important. Your brain fills the gap with meaning, often exaggerating the silent person's power. This is called the halo effect. We project competence onto those who don't overshare. Then there's the concept of cognitive load. When you're nervous, your brain scrambles to process information, and you talk to relieve the pressure. Silence, on the other hand, signals low cognitive load, calmness, clarity, control. Villains exploit this. They know that your need to fill the silence is their greatest weapon. They wait, and you crack. Think of a classic villain like Hannibal Lecter. In The Silence of the Lambs, what makes him terrifying isn't his violence. It's his restraint. He doesn't rush to speak. He watches Clarice, lets her squirm, lets the silence stretch until she's spilling more than she planned. That's not fin. That's strategy. I've seen it myself in boardrooms, in negotiations, even in everyday life. The person who says less, who holds their cards close, always has the upper hand. So how do you use silence strategically? How do you channel Tzu and Machiavelli without losing your soul? Here are 5 practical techniques to master the psychology of silence and manipulation ethically, of course. 1. Pause before you speak. The Tzu pause. Tzu said, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Silence creates that opportunity." Next time you're in a tense situation, a debate, a negotiation, an argument, pause for 3 seconds before responding. Count it in your head. 1, 2, 3. This does 2 things. First, it gives you time to think, to choose your words deliberately. Second, it unsettles the other person. They'll wonder why you're not reacting. They'll start to doubt themselves. Try it. It's like a superpower. 2. Listen to manipulate. The Machiavelli ear. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The key to appearing powerful is listening. Really listening. When someone talks, don't just wait for your turn. Absorb their words, their tone, their body language. What are they revealing? What are they hiding? Villains don't manipulate by talking. They manipulate by knowing. The more you know about someone, the more power you have. Practice active listening. Nod, maintain eye contact, and ask one sharp follow-up question. You'll be amazed at what people give away. 3. Use silence as a mirror. The villain's gaze. Here's a trick straight from the villain's playbook. When someone asks you a tough question, don't answer right away. Look them in the eye, hold their gaze, and let the silence linger. Most people can't handle it. They'll start talking again, explaining, justifying, or even answering their own question. You've just flipped the power dynamic without saying a word. This works in interviews, conflicts, even casual conversations. Silence reflects their insecurity back at them. 4. Control the frame. The Sunday Tzu illusion. Sunday Tzu taught that all warfare is based on deception. In conversation, the frame is the unspoken rules of the interaction: who's leading, who's reacting. Silence lets you control the frame. For example, if someone's trying to pressure you into a decision, don't argue, just stay silent. Let them keep talking. They'll either back off or reveal their true intentions. You've just turned their aggression into your advantage. Practice this in small moments. When someone interrupts you, don't rush to reclaim the floor. Pause. Let them feel the weight of their rudeness. 5. Weaponize ambiguity. The Machiavelli mask. Machiavelli warned, never reveal your intentions fully. Villains are masters of ambiguity. They say just enough to intrigue, but never enough to be pinned down. Next time someone asks for your opinion on a risky topic, give a vague but confident response. I'm still weighing my options. Or, that's an interesting angle. What do you think? This keeps you mysterious, unreadable, and in control. People will project their own assumptions onto you, and that's where your power lies. Which of these techniques resonates with you most? Are you ready to try the Sun Tzu pause in your next conversation? Or maybe the Machiavelli ear to uncover someone's true motives? Drop a comment and let me know. Better yet, try one of these this week and report back with your results. I'm dying to hear how it goes. Let's double down on the psychology. The Zeigarnik effect explains why silence is so unsettling. Our brains hate incomplete information. When someone stays silent, your mind scrambles to fill the gap, often overthinking or assuming the worst. Villains know this. They use silence to create tension, to make you second-guess yourself. Meanwhile, studies on emotional contagion show that calm, controlled silence can influence the mood of an entire room. Your stillness becomes a signal of strength, and others unconsciously mirror it. This is why villains like Darth Vader or Kaiser Soze don't need to yell their silence commands. Let me tell you about a time I got outmaneuvered by silence. I was pitching a project to a potential client, feeling confident, laying out all my cards. But the client? Stone cold silent. No nods, no questions, just this piercing stare. I started over-explaining, filling the void, and by the end I'd given away half my leverage. Later, I realized they weren't bored. They were strategic. They used silence to make me doubt myself, and it worked. That moment taught me to respect the power of restraint and to never let someone else's silence rattle me again. What happens if you don't master silence? If you keep rushing to speak, to explain, to prove yourself, you become predictable. You become prey. In a world full of manipulators, whether it's a toxic boss, a cunning rival, or even a charismatic friend who always gets their way your need to fill, the silence is a weakness. You're handing them the script to your downfall. Sunday Tzu warned, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. If you don't understand the power of silence, you're blind to half the battlefield. You'll overshare in negotiations, reveal your fears and conflicts, and let others control the narrative of your life. Worse, you'll feel powerless, wondering why you always seem to lose to people who say less but get more. That's not an accident, it's strategy. A 2020 study from Stanford found that people who talk more in meetings are perceived as less competent than those who speak selectively. Why? Because constant talking signals insecurity, while measured silence signals confidence. If you're always the loudest in the room, you're not leading, you're begging for approval. And the villains of the world? They're watching, waiting, and taking notes. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine you've mastered the art of silence. You walk into a room, and without saying a word, people notice you. You listen, you observe, and when you speak, your words land like thunder. You're no longer reacting to others. You're shaping the interaction. You're no longer manipulated. You're the one setting the terms. This is what Sun Tzu meant when he said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Silence lets you win battles before they even start. You deflect manipulation because you don't take the bait. You gain respect because you don't need to prove yourself. You move through the world with a quiet, unshakable power that makes others pause and wonder, who is this person? A 2019 study from the Journal of Applied Psychology found that leaders who use strategic pauses are rated as more charismatic and persuasive. Why? Because silence creates anticipation. It signals that what you're about to say matters. Meanwhile, neuroscience shows that silence activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and self-control. When you pause, you're not just manipulating others, you're mastering yourself. Let's look at a fictional villain who embodies this. Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. Gus isn't loud or flashy. He's meticulous. He speaks softly, deliberately, and when he's silent, you can feel the weight of his calculations. In one scene, he sits across from Walt, saying nothing, just staring. Walt, the supposed genius, starts rambling, revealing his desperation. Gus doesn't need to threaten or argue us. Silence does the work. That's the power you can tap into. Not to become Gus, but to become someone who commands respect without trying. When you embrace silence, you gain clarity. You see through people's facades because you're not distracted by their words. You make better decisions because you're not clouded by emotional reactions. You build stronger relationships because you listen deeply, making others feel heard. And most importantly, you protect yourself from manipulation because you're no longer an open book. You're a mystery, and mysteries are powerful. Picture this. The next time someone tries to pressure you, you pause. You look them in the eye. You let the silence speak. How do you think they'll react? Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever used silence to turn the tables? Or have you been on the receiving end of someone's strategic pause? Let's talk about it. If this video is lighting a fire in you, if you're ready to start wielding silence like a weapon and outsmarting the manipulators in your life, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's your friend who's always getting out-talked in meetings, or your sibling who's stuck in a toxic dynamic. Let's spread this knowledge and build a tribe of strategic thinkers. And don't forget to stick around. I've got a final piece of advice that'll tie this all together. Today, we've peeled back the curtain on the psychology of villains, diving into the art of silence and manipulation through the lens of Sun Tzu and Machiavelli. We've seen how silence isn't just a tactic, it's a superpower. It's how villains control rooms, unsettle opponents, and bend reality to their will. But more importantly, we've learned how you can use silence ethically to protect yourself, to gain clarity, and to move through the world with quiet, unshakable power. We broke down 5 practical techniques: the Sun Tzu pause, the Machiavelli ear, the villain's gaze, controlling the frame, and weaponizing ambiguity. We explored the science behind silence, how it triggers the halo effect, reduces cognitive load, and even rewires your brain for better decision-making. And we saw how ignoring silence leaves you vulnerable, while embracing it makes you untouchable. Here's your homework. This week, try the Sun Tzu pause. In one conversation, doesn't matter if it's with your boss, your partner, or a stranger, pause for 3 seconds before responding. Feel the shift in energy. Notice how the other person reacts. Notice how you feel. That's the first step to mastering silence. Start small, but start now. Because the moment you do, you're not just observing the game, you're playing it. If you love this deep dive into the psychology of power, check out my next video on the art of persuasion. How to influence without manipulation. It's packed with more strategies to help you navigate the world like a master strategist. Before you go, I want to hear from you. What's your craziest story about silence? Maybe you used it to win an argument, or maybe someone's silence completely threw you off. Drop it in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going. And if you're ready to start your journey as a strategist, type 111 in the comments to signal your new beginning. I'm reading every single one. Thank you so much for watching. This isn't just a video, it's a wake-up call. The world is full of players, and now you know how to play smarter. Hit subscribe, join the tribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay silent and stay powerful.